of times. And certainly the first 12 fixtures of the Premier League have been exhausting at times.
And it all boils down to 8 words, man. Let the football people make the football decision.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely. I think you're absolutely right in that regard. And if you can't keep on letting the managerial position for this club just be this $4 million or £4 million position where a guy's just like, well, pardon my French, fuck it. If it doesn't work out, I got a $4 million check, and it's all going to be good. And I just feel like that we got to quit thinking that way, and that we hire people for a long-term perspective, and we have to see it through. And I know it's been really, really frustrating to see managerial decisions, but he's shown, hey, look, in spite of Kabul being captain, if he's not playing worth a shit, then he's going to be dropped. And I didn't think that he had that in him, and he did today. And I saw that lineup right before I got busy. I was like, oh, wow, okay, this is great. So, look, I want to dispel one myth. Daniel Levy I think I will die before, either Daniel Levy will die as chairman of Spurs, or I will die and Daniel Levy will still be chairman of Spurs. And I firmly believe that. And I just don't, look, he has never really been a main equity holder in this club. He has a great relationship with Lewis. Lewis bought the club. Daniel has been his chairman and his leader, and short of them really having a big fallout, which I don't really think they have, because I think he'd have to invariably run this club completely into the ground, like relegation into the ground, for the valuation of this club to be drastically reduced to the point that Lewis has had a bad investment, which he hasn't. I mean, he bought they stole the club for sugar. They've had a very modest additional equity chunk that they put in when they took the company private and they bought out the rest of the shareholders. And other than that, I mean, you probably sell this club pretty effortlessly for £400 million right now. And I know that he wants much, much more, and the stadium plays a role in that. And I just don't think that he really views, in spite of the things that Daniel has failed to do, as being harmful in regard to that sort of valuation concept, if you will, or that valuation strategy. All is still well, I think, in Lewis's eyes. And look, Daniel, as I've said before, he loves his club. He's a great supporter. He shows up at every. Was he I never saw the cameras on him, but I figured he was.
At the KC Stadium, I don't know if he made that trip or not.
I don't know what he did. We would be one of the first that I have not seen that. So anyway, there's rumors about Carlisle, another private equity firm coming in, and I just don't put any credence to that. I think Kane Hoy's quick arrival and subsequent quick departure really speaks to the fact that if there is a price, it's ludicrous, and the mechanics of financing and capitalizing a deal doesn't really work, because private equity is not really putting in their money, they're putting in other people's money. So anyhow, enough of that. Levy's here. Hopefully Pop will be here, and or at least we'll have a reasonable period of time to give him some time. I don't think he lost a week today.
I think it's easy for us to sit back behind a microphone and for people to get on Twitter and talk about what they think is best for the club, or how things work, or how acquisition of players work. So I thought it was kind of interesting. I found a video, and I'm going to play some of the audio from that video. And it was made, I think, for Southampton. It was kind of a long thing talking about the after the death of their chairman and how they moved forward. And Paul had about a 4-minute segment in there where he was discussing kind of their techniques, what his staff does, in as far as player evaluation. And here's a little bit of that right now, coming to you guys from Hotspur America.
Paul Mitchell heads up the recruitment of players both at senior and youth level, and explains how his team of scouts and analysts had to cope with less than ideal working conditions.
I don't think it went unnoticed to the owner that my department grew incredibly big during the times in the porter cabins, and when people came in there was little to no space, a lot of TVs, a lot of monitors, generating an awful lot of heat and tough working conditions for my staff in particular. And the space that we've been given now more than makes up for them years in the porter cabins. I feel, from my point of view personally, we've got the best working space potentially any staff member could ask for. This is our analysis department. So we have Scott, first team analyst, supported by Kelvin. So they'll be looking at footage from the weekend for debriefs with the first team, and then Kelvin will be looking at our opposition for our next few fixtures. Tom deals with recruitment, so he supports youth and academy recruitment, so looking at identifying our next player or looking at comparing one of our future targets with maybe one of our own players to see how they shape up. The depth of analysis we go in on our opponents as individuals to feed back to the first team is unbelievable, and you know, Scott is really busy in terms of pre-match debriefs, individual clippings, delivering to the goalkeepers, the units. You know, it can be a wide and wonderful varied analysis on ourselves and our opponents.
Paul's team had to work around the clock this summer to secure new first team signings in what he admits was a challenging transfer window.
I think everyone will say, you know, we've had the toughest transfer window of, I think, hopefully my lifetime. I can't really afford to give up any more hair as it is. Across all the spectrums really, we've had young players coming in from the academy recruitment side where we've had competitors in the industry wanting to sign that same individual, and we've utilised the space, the facility, the philosophy and the environment that we create to really engage with a parent and a family, and it's made positive outcomes of young player signings for our under 16 age group. And then obviously the senior transfer window, we call it, probably the toughest transfer window any football club will ever have to endure. But the working space and the platform that we was given in this new facility allow us, for me, to have a very positive and successful window, and gone from strength to strength and building on the success of last year. So the training facility is already repaying back the investment.
Finally, in the scouting and recruitment department, one of the more intriguing rooms in the new pavilion.
Yeah, it's basically just a box I painted black, and it's just generated so much interest. I've got to really run up with it. But no, it's another phenomenal investment by the ownership, and the concept and theories that go on at this club is always pioneering, pushing boundaries. And the Black Boss, I have to say, is a leading light in that in recruitment for me. It's based around the theory of really challenging perception. It's a great delivery tool, so the first team will use it to feedback for pre and post match. The academy will use it to player audit throughout the age group, so we're making sure we're not recruiting on top of potential talent. And then we'll use it as a recruitment tool to deliver to the manager, to deliver internally, and really challenge theories, philosophies and perception on individuals. So we'll break a player down, we'll look through footage in fine detail, we'll work off player profiles, player KPIs, and really go into them deeper depth than most clubs to try and make sure we make the best acquisition possible for this football club.
All right, so there you see Paul Mitchell, his staff, kind of the backroom workings and how things work. So some people may have already seen that video, some people may not. You know, he's not going to divulge a lot in a video, you know, especially not knowing that he was going to be moving on anywhere. But it's some basic information. It kind of gives you some insight. I thought it was interesting. I figured it was worth a share. You were talking a little bit, Sam, about the Carlyle Group or whoever it is that the new American private investment firm consortium or whatever you want to call it.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, don't really want it.
Yeah.
I have some insight on this. When I work in the aerospace industry, and Vought Aircraft, which is now Triumph Aerostructures, was owned by the Carlyle Group. They took it over from what was Northrop Grumman's commercial aircraft division. And not to bore anybody to complete tears, but when Carlyle took over, one of the very first things that we heard in money dealings is that one of the people on their original board, before he became a notorious blood-curdling criminal, was Osama bin Laden.
Oh, lovely.
Believe it or not. That is the truth. The Carlyle Group, because they are a private equity investor, what they did with our company and intend to do with most of the companies that they own, which they own a ton, is they buy these big giant companies and then sell them off in little pieces. And that's how they make their money. And they have a lot of very, very wealthy people that are on their board and are simply a part of their consortium. So it is a very touch and go type of situation when you're discussing things directly related to Carlisle. How it would relate to the Northumberland development project, the new stadium.
Oh, it's a gold mine.
Yeah, you know, for them it is even if Lewis says, okay, yeah, I want my $1 billion, then Carlisle may go, sure.
Well, no, they won't. Well, look, no, they won't. And as I've said before, I mean, the numbers don't work because private equity, the nature of private equity is it's other people's money, right? I mean, there is a modest sort of equity infusion from the partners themselves, and they are wealthy people, but for the most part, they go to raise money.
Yeah.
They put as little equity as they can. They'll put as much financing in place as possible, and then they have to derive a return for the equity, the first loss piece holder, if you will. And at $1 billion valuation, the numbers just don't work. I mean, you can look at valuations of sports franchises are willy-nilly. You can find them all over the place. But within professional football teams, you can just simply see without a stadium, we're nowhere near that valuation, and even with a stadium, you could question it, but there's a lot going on around that area in terms of commercial real estate development. There's lots of ways to make money, but don't you think that Lewis and Levy know that? So look, the best possible owner for us is somebody that has FU money and has a genuine passion for the club. And I hate to use American people as great examples of owners, but look in front of them, Mark Cuban. I mean, I'm a Dallas Mavericks, or I was a Dallas Mavericks season ticket holder for 13 years. He understands and gets and loves and appreciates that it all starts with the fans. It all starts with the supporters' experience. And when you have an owner that you feel like, you're one and the same with him, and he genuinely wants what you as a supporter want and has the money to do it, and it's his money, that's the kind of guy that you want. So in spite of that, I had a great conversation with Mark about this, and he thinks, there'll just be more money, and I'm like, well, no, that works until it doesn't. And if you have a gamble on players that spend a lot of money like we've done, then you really like, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with Liverpool now, because they spent, my God, what happened to them today?
Yeah, I'm sure that he's just going nuts over there.
Mr.
Henry. Yeah.
Well, anyway, look. So, but as I said earlier, I think the point is moot. He's not going anywhere. So let's hopefully not ever have to bring that up again. I mean, it could be wrong, but I doubt it very seriously. I just think it'd be such an aggressive valuation to try and buy this club, and the only way that the valuation will be lower is, I think, if Daniel were to stay in charge, and then you have the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
Then you have private equity ownership and Daniel's leadership, which is just it's a bit of a shit show.
I actually mailed Mark. It's funny you mentioned that. I mailed Mark Cuban.
I tweeted him and Steve Nash this week.
I mailed him a 5-page, basically dissertation business proposal on why it would be wise to get in on the ground floor of the English Premier League's popularity in America with Tottenham Hotspur football.
Yeah, no. I mean, look, there's a private equity group that's got involved with Roma, and that's smart, because I think actually similar to what Levy and Enoch did in buying Spurs. I mean, they saw the sea of change that was about to happen with the Premier League and the big money, and I think Serie A is going to have a renaissance in Roma with it. Going to have a new stadium and the brand marketing that they've done. They've made it an more enjoyable experience for the fans. So anyway, so enough of that. We're going to be with Enoch, and we're going to be with Levy. Can I switch gears? Totally switch gears. Did you read that amazing article that Charlie Parrish, that interview?
Bale.
Oh my God! And you know what? I think we have to give a big shout out to the Fighting Cock, because they had him on. And that's how I learned about it. It's a great podcast.
Yeah.
And Parrish is Charlie's obviously a Spurs fan, but he never let Bale know in that interview, which I thought was so cool. I mean, he's been bursting at the seams. I mean, how do you have such journalistic integrity like that and never let on that you're a Spurs fan? But I don't know. Were you happy with the outcome of that interview?
How could you not be?
Yeah.
I mean, with him saying that, but isn't it just so Spursy that what does that do? It gives you the H word, man, the hope.
Yeah,
there's the
I think
hope.
he'll come back. I do. I made the comment to somebody that, look, he's clearly a guy of principles, right? I mean, he said in the interview, hey, look, if it wasn't Madrid, I probably would have never left.
Yep. And
he made a comment about Wales this week that he's absolutely determined to get him into a major competition. And so, if we flounder around and kind of continue on the path that we've been on, I have to think that when he's 28, 29 years old, which maybe 30 years old, take him at 30, that he would come back to do some unfinished business. I mean, what would he gain from going to, if United becomes United again, or Chelsea, or what good does that do? I mean, he's made his money. He's a good boy. I mean, I really believe that, and I could see him. I mean, hope springs eternal, right?
Well, it's well known. He doesn't drink. He doesn't smoke. He doesn't do any of the stuff out there that a lot of these guys are doing with nightclubs and yeah, he's married to the game.